I was never supposed to moan his name. But there I was, pinned between the washing machine and a man who wasn't my husband. And the worst part? I didn't stop him. I didn't even want to. It started with an innocent touch, just a brush of fingers while he helped me lift a box into the attic. Harmless, right? Except it lingered. Except his eyes stayed on me a second too long. Except I felt it everywhere. My husband was downstairs fixing the damn leaky faucet while I let his best friend, Josh, whisper things into my ear that made my knees buckle. I used to be a good wife. I swear I did everything right. But something in me, something wild, reckless, lonely, came alive that afternoon. And now I can't put it back to sleep. I smell him in my sheets. I taste him in my coffee. Every time my husband says, "I love you," all I hear is Josh's voice saying, "You deserve more." And the sickest part of it all? I believe him. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you're alone. This story doesn't stay innocent for long. It started on a Sunday, the kind of day that pretends to be peaceful. We'd invited Josh over to help with the attic, or rather, my husband had. I didn't even know he was coming until I saw his truck in the driveway, the same beat-up red Ford that made too much noise and somehow still looked hot in a rebellious kind of way. Josh had always been around. Barbecues. Football nights. Road trips. But I never looked at him like that. Not until that day. He came in wearing a tank top, sweat already clinging to his chest, hair slightly tousled like he'd just rolled out of someone else's bed. I noticed that. I noticed everything, the way his jaw flexed when he smiled, the way he said my name like it had a flavor. "Hey, Leah," he said, and I swear my name had never sounded that intimate coming from anyone else. We made small talk as my husband gathered tools downstairs. Then came the attic. Hot. Cramped. Dust everywhere. I was in front of him, stepping over boxes, and I felt his hand graze my lower back, just a guide, just a steady touch. But it lingered. I turned to say something, to laugh it off maybe, but when our eyes met, it didn't feel funny. It felt like something had cracked open. "You okay?" he asked. Just that. But his eyes said more. His eyes said he knew. That I wasn't just a housewife anymore. That I wasn't satisfied. That I hadn't been touched the way I wanted in far too long. We kept working. We were quiet, focused, efficient. But there were moments, accidental hand brushes, shoulders too close, breath sinking in the still air, that made my skin electric. And then it happened. I slipped. My foot caught on a loose board, and before I could hit the floor, he caught me. His hands were firm around my waist, and I was pressed against his chest, my face right near his neck, and God, he smelled like sweat and sin. "Got you," he whispered. And maybe it was my imagination, but his grip didn't loosen right away. Neither did I move. I just stood there, letting my body rest against his, letting the idea of what could happen flood through me. Downstairs, the pipes clanked, my husband. Reality. I pulled away quickly, heart hammering. "Thanks," I muttered, eyes avoiding his. "No problem," he said, and his voice was low, amused. Like he knew the effect he had. Like this was a game he'd played before. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to my husband while he snored, and I kept seeing Josh's eyes, kept feeling his hands on my hips. I told myself it was nothing. That I was overthinking. That it was the attic heat or the tight space or just hormones. But the ache between my legs didn't feel like nothing. Over the next few days, I kept replaying it. Rewriting it. What if I hadn't pulled away? What if he kissed me? What if I let him? I hated myself for it. I cooked dinner like always. Folded laundry. Kissed my husband on the cheek. But inside, I was burning. The next time Josh came over, it was for a barbecue. Family and friends all around. Laughter, music, beers clinking. And yet, all I saw was him. All I felt was the heat between us. He didn't touch me that time. Not even once. But every time our eyes locked, it was like we'd already done something terrible and delicious. That's when I realized the truth. I didn't just want Josh to touch me again. I wanted him to ruin me. I told myself it was just flirting. Harmless. A silly crush. Something that would pass if I ignored it long enough. I clung to that lie like it could save me. But deep down, I already knew I wasn't interested in being saved. I was interested in being seen. Desired. Touched in a way that felt like fire under my skin, not duty in the dark. And Josh? He made me feel like I was made of fire. It started subtle, the way addictions always do. A text here. A joke there. He'd send me memes he knew my husband wouldn't get, little inside references that felt like secrets only we shared. One night he texted, "Your husband's still treating you like a roommate?" I laughed. But I didn't correct him. I didn't defend my marriage. I didn't say, "That's not fair." Because the truth? It was starting to feel like that. My husband was kind. Loyal. Predictable. The kind of man who bought roses on Valentine's Day because the calendar said to, not because he wanted to. And somewhere between grocery lists and home repairs, I had disappeared. I didn't even blame him. I just missed the way I used to feel when someone looked at me like I was wanted. Josh never stopped looking at me like that. The next time I saw him, it was just the two of us. My husband had gone out of town for a work retreat. Josh texted, "Need help moving that shelf in the garage?" I could have said no. I should have. But the lie whispered, "It's just a shelf. It's just help." I wore a thin white tank top, no bra, and shorts that barely covered anything. I told myself it was hot out. That I didn't dress for him. Another lie. He showed up with a smirk like he already knew. We didn't talk much. He followed me into the garage, where the summer heat clung to the walls like a second skin. We stood close, working side by side, and I could feel him watching me. I dropped a screw. He bent down at the same time I did. Our faces were inches apart. "You smell good," he said, not even pretending it was casual. My heart raced. "It's just sunscreen," I lied. He chuckled. Sure. That was the moment. I felt the air shift. Like something unspoken had been agreed upon. Like we'd both stopped pretending. He reached around me to grab a wrench, his chest brushing my back. His hand grazed my hip. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. And then he did it. He let his fingers slide slowly across my skin. Not accidental. Not innocent. I turned around, my face inches from his. "What are we doing?" I whispered. He looked at me like I was something he'd been starving for. "What you've been thinking about since the attic." I should have walked away. I should have said, "No, this isn't right." But instead, I let him kiss me. It wasn't gentle. It was hungry, hot, like we were both trying to erase everything else. My hands found his hair. His hands found the edge of my tank top. When he touched my breast, I gasped, not from shock, but because I hadn't realized how badly I needed it. We didn't have sex. Not that day. But it didn't matter. The line was already crossed. His hands, his mouth, his breath against my neck, I let all of it happen. I wanted all of it. After he left, I stood in the mirror, staring at the red marks he left on my collarbone. I should have felt guilt. Shame. But what I felt was alive. Desired. Seen. That night, my husband called from his hotel. I answered with a trembling voice. He said he missed me. I said I missed him too. That was the biggest lie of all. Because I was already counting down the hours until Josh would touch me again. It wasn't supposed to go this far. That's what I kept telling myself, like repeating it would reverse time or undo what I'd done. But lies don't rewind the tape, they just muffle the guilt long enough for you to do it again. And I did. Again and again. The next time Josh came over, I didn't bother pretending. No makeup. No excuse. I opened the door in my robe and nothing underneath. The way his eyes locked onto mine said everything. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. He kissed me like he was punishing me for waiting so long, and I let him. On the kitchen counter. On the laundry room floor. Places where I'd folded towels and made sandwiches. Now they held the echo of moans I never made with my husband. I knew I was spiraling. But it felt like I was finally flying. Josh made me feel like a woman again, not a wife, not a roommate, not a grocery list. A woman who was desired, devoured, claimed. And I craved that feeling more than I feared the consequences. But things never stay secret for long. Especially not things that burn this hot. It started with my husband noticing little things. The sheets smelled different. I laughed too hard at Josh's texts. My phone always face down. One night, he asked, "Do you still love me?" I froze. "Of course I do," I said, but the words sounded like someone else's. He didn't believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But he didn't push. Maybe he didn't want the truth. Maybe part of him already knew. Josh, on the other hand, started acting different too. Less cocky. More possessive. One night after sex, he looked at me and said, "You ever think about leaving him?" I laughed. "Don't be ridiculous." "I'm not," he said, dead serious. "We could be good together." "You know we could." I pulled away. This was never supposed to be more than. "Then what?" he snapped. "A distraction? A toy? Something to wake you up?" I didn't answer. Because maybe that's exactly what he was. But maybe I didn't want him to be. That night, I cried in the shower. Not because I regretted what we'd done, but because I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Josh touched me in ways I couldn't forget. But my husband, he loved me in ways Josh never would. And yet, when Josh texted the next day, "I need to see you," I went. I told myself it was goodbye. Closure. One last time. Another lie. We ended up in the back seat of his truck, parked under the bridge like teenagers. It was raw, desperate, messy. And when it was over, I didn't feel satisfied. I felt hollow. "I think we should stop," I said, finally. He lit a cigarette. "You're gonna pretend this didn't happen?" "I have to." "Then go back to pretending," he said coldly. "But don't call me when your perfect little life feels empty again." I slammed the door behind me. Drove home with shaking hands. I crawled into bed beside my husband, who was already asleep, and stared at the ceiling until dawn. But the next morning, I checked my phone. No messages. No calls. Just silence. And it was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. I thought I could end it cleanly. Just cut the cord, walk away, and slip back into my life like nothing had happened. But endings are never clean. They bleed. They leave stains in places you can't scrub out, and the damage doesn't show up all at once. It creeps in, quiet, slow, irreversible. Josh didn't text me after that night. Not once. No more late-night memes, no more suggestive comments, no more heat behind his gaze. He disappeared like we were strangers, like none of it ever meant anything. And maybe it didn't. Maybe I was just a game to him. A thrill. A bored housewife too easy to tempt. But I wasn't done. That's the part that destroyed me. He had let go, but I was still holding on, white-knuckled and furious at myself for caring. I'd check his socials at 3 a.m., hoping for a sign. A post. A cryptic quote. Anything that would prove he still thought of me. There was nothing. He'd moved on. And I was still married. Still waking up next to a man who kissed my forehead every morning and said, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." And every time he said it, it felt like a blade twisting in my gut. Because I wasn't. Not anymore. One night, I cracked. I confessed everything. Sat across from him at the dinner table, knees shaking, voice trembling, and told him about the attic. The garage. The truck. He didn't yell. Didn't throw anything. He just sat there, his fork frozen midair, eyes wide and wet. "I knew something was wrong," he whispered. "But I never thought." "I'm sorry," I said. Over and over. I don't even know why I did it. But I did. I was lonely. I was bored. I was selfish. I wanted to feel like more than a wife and less than invisible. "I would have loved you better," he said. "If you had just told me." And that was the part that broke me. Because he would have. He would have done anything. And I didn't give him the chance. He left that night. Packed a bag and said he needed space. I haven't seen him since. Josh never reached out. Never checked in. Whatever spark there was, it died with my marriage. And now? Now I live alone. In a house too quiet. In sheets too cold. Some mornings I wake up and forget for a second that everything's gone. And then it hits me. I thought I wanted passion. I thought I needed to feel alive. But what I really needed was to feel safe. To feel loved. And I had that. Until I let him touch me. Now, every room in this house whispers what I lost. And I can't stop thinking about him. Not because I miss him. But because I let him cost me everything.